How many of you have ever dreamed of becoming an archaeologist or Egyptologist one day? Here are a few things you need to know about the absolutely fascinating profession if you want to do what I do when you grow up. An Egyptologist is someone who has spent several years studying at university to become an expert in ancient Egypt and uses this expertise to help improve research. In fact, the meaning of the word Egyptologist is very broad, as it includes many jobs, archaeologist being the one you probably know best. Part of being an archaeologist is digging sites of historical interest to study the past. For years, I excavated at the site of the Ramesseum. That's the name of a temple built under the orders of the great pharaoh Ramesses II, located at the foot of a Theban mountain in southern Egypt. During his entire reign, Ramesses was worshipped there as a sort of living god, and the Ramesseum continued to serve as a temple for almost 350 years after his death. It was around this time that priests made him the center of a funerary cult to honor his memory. The Ramesseum was built around 1260 before Christ over an old cemetery that had been abandoned for several centuries, which explains why my team and I came across several tombs when we excavated the playground of the school in the temple. That happens to be where I made my most amazing archaeological discovery, not of jewels or mummies, but of pupils' worksheets. It was an incredible and very rare discovery because at the moment archaeologists have found only one other school in Egypt. These drafts, which are actually bits of stone or broken pieces of vessels, are very precious as they show us how children learned to write by writing rows of characters like how we wrote rows of letters in school. They also gave us a clue as to what they drew and what type of dictation they had. When the Ramesseum was finally abandoned around 700 before Christ, the site went back to being a cemetery. It's by studying the type of objects, the size of tombs, and how the body were mummified that we get an idea of how old these tombs are, which ones were already there before the temple was built, and which ones came later. Archaeologists are somewhat like detectives of the past, who ask a lot of questions and get lots of answers by studying objects from the past. Egyptologists who are archaeologists do not, as the name suggests, spend all their time in Egypt because, first of all, it costs a lot of money to organize an excavation mission. Then, archaeologists need time to study what they have found, and finally, it gets extremely warm in Egypt between April and September, so digging in that heat can become quite uncomfortable. In fact, excavations are organized according to the movement of the sun. At the site of the Ramesseum, we would wake up between 4:30 and 5 in the morning and start working around 6:30. We take a 30 minutes mid-morning break and then we stop working at 12:30. Even though we are free for the rest of the day, we often spend that time studying what we found in the morning and write our observations in a logbook. This logbook is highly valuable because every day we record what we did at the excavation site, the objects we found there, and what we think about them. So when we can't remember details later, we have a record of our work. At the Ramesseum and at all the other excavation sites managed by foreign missions, we work together with Egyptian teams. Well, we are in a country after all. They are workmen who dig and carry soil away from the site. Then there are specialists such as archaeologists, sketch artists, and some masons who help to restore the site to what it used to look like, and inspectors who conduct checks to make sure that the excavation is going well. Most Egyptologists hold another job when they are back in their countries. Some work at universities, some work at research centers, and some others work at museums. I chose a very different path. I wanted to be my own boss and also work for others and have absolute freedom. I am what you would call a freelance Egyptologist, and I love it. Because of the freedom I choose, I can hold up to 10 different jobs like archaeologist, historian, author, guest speaker, guide, and YouTuber. This wide variety is what I enjoy the most. While some archaeologists are also historians, not all historians are archaeologists. The job of an historian is to conduct research into the history of Egypt and Egyptians. As the field is very broad, historians often choose to specialize in 2 or 3 areas. In my case, for example, I choose to focus on children and mummies. These are 2 fields in which I know many things and on which I have written several books. In addition to archaeologists and historians, there are also art historians, specialists in Egyptian art. Just by looking at an object, they are able to tell how old it is. Other Egyptologists work in museums, such as the British Museum in London, the Louvre in Paris, the Egyptian Museum in Cairo, the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York. Part of their job is to organize exhibitions and study objects from collections. There are many other jobs that an Egyptologist may hold: linguist, specializing in Egyptian texts; anthropologist, specializing in skeletons and mummies; ceramologist, who specializes in ceramic objects and can tell us where and when they were made; architects, who studies ancient buildings and tombs and can tell us how they were built, without forgetting archaeobotanists. By studying the wood used to make a coffin, for example, they can tell whether the wood came from the region or another country and whether the wood is precious. If you want to be an Egyptologist, you must be good at languages, because in addition to hieroglyphs, you will need to read a lot of books and articles in German and French. After high school, if you want to be an Egyptologist, archaeologist, or historian, you have a choice between several universities. In the UK, they are located in Oxford, Cambridge, London, Liverpool, Manchester, Birmingham, or Swansea. In America, they are in Chicago, New York, Memphis, New Haven, Philadelphia, Providence, Bloomington. In Canada, they are in Toronto, Calgary, and Montreal. In Australia, the university is located in North Ryde. And you have, as well, the American University of Cairo in Egypt. Degrees in Egyptology are relatively long, but they depend on where you study. I studied at university for 13 years after high school to become an Egyptologist. But do not let that scare you. I enjoyed those 13 years during which I learned a lot. Well, you get the idea. To be an Egyptologist, not only do you need to be good at languages, also you need, above all, to be passionate, focused, and determined. Good luck!